It is just a huge honor for me today to be talking to Rick Henriksen, who joined Dexis in 1998 and immediately took on the task of establishing processes to drive strong organic growth. Assuming a leadership role, Rick established the Dexis model as a new standard and best practices, and it flourished. After leading the team through the sale of the company to Danaher in 2005, Rick took on leadership of Gendex and Imaging Sciences iCat, building the #1 imaging business in the world. And now, and we've been friends for, my gosh, 20, 30 years.
20 years, yeah. 20 years.
My God. And we're both the same age and both have the same number of grandkids. We're both up to 5. So man, we've seen so many changes. When I first met you, we were talking about micro air abrasion. It was creative, which was sold through Paterson. Whatever happened to micro air abrasion? I love my creative unit. Man, I loved it. But my assistants hated it because it made a mess.
I think lasers, all but cannibalized that technology. The dust was a kind of a prevailing concern, and a lot of practices just didn't like the big elephant trunk that sucked in the dust. Remember aluminum oxide powder forced, and so I think it just I think lasers took its space and they kind of disappeared. Still, I think there are those that use kind of small, less expensive devices for some etching and scuffing surfaces, but it's just not around.
That is amazing. So now you're with Jazz Imaging. How old of a company is Jazz Imaging? When did that start?
Yeah, we launched the business about a little over 2.5 years ago, not just short. And really what it was about was the sensor market has been pretty stale for a long time, right? You've had digital X-ray technology has been around since the late 80s. Price point has hovered in that $8,000 to $10,000 price range for 20, 25 years. The technology itself has been largely homogenized, and it's become, it's kind of returning back to a commodity. Markets change, and yet digital X-ray space has all but stayed the same. And so few things happened. I left Danaher in 2010. I just wanted to go, try some other startup opportunities. The guys at Fairchild Imaging, who were actually the founders of digital radiography technology, they invented the first trophy sensor back in the late 80s. They made Sirona's sensor. They made our Dexis Classic, then ultimately our Dexis Platinum, and then the Gendex sensors. And that business had been around a long time, semiconductor business, making sensors for dentistry as well as, imaging devices for deep space impact, the Hubble telescope. Been around a long time. So that business sold in 2012. We had some unique patents on the Dexis sensor at the time, and those patents began to expire. In 2014, Todd Miller, who was the project manager at Fairchild at the time, that we had spent time getting to know each other, was tracking those patents, had a great idea regarding a subscription option for sensor replacement or additional sensors. And so for the next several years, they began to design a next generation Dexis-like single size, rounded corners, angled cable, all things kind of made that product great. Did a few things to improve on it, and we've got about 10% more active area, but the big deal was a subscription model. So instead of $10,000 for a sensor plus warranties every year, it's $1,999, and you sign up for a subscription, 12 or 24 months, and we send you the sensor, the RIN kits, everything you need, get you going. And so we've really changed kind of the economic model with a return back to more of an operating expense versus that big capital expense.
So instead of buying the sensor, you said earlier the range has been staying at between $8,000 and $25,000.
Whatever, right?
But where would you say the median is?
It's about $8,500.
Is the median
between the three primary players, which I would refer to as, and maybe you could add Gendex in there, but I would say Dexis, Schick, and Carestream are the larger players. And when we were doing some cost analysis and market mapping, getting into this new business, it was crazy how close they all had hovered around that protected price.
So the three major players are Dexis, Schick, and who?
Carestream, I would think, and Gendex, is kind of in that, call it 4 primary providers.
So Dexis isn't Dexis owned by Danaher?
It is.
And what about Schick?
Owned by Sirona.
Schick is Sirona, and then Carestream is by itself.
Independent, that's correct.
And then Gendex is owned by Danaher, right?
Correct.
So Danaher owns 2 of them. So of those 4 players, Danaher owns Dexis and Gendex. So Danaher owns 2 of the 4 players, Dexis and Schick. Carestream's owned by Carestream. No.
Dexis and Gendex.
And
yeah,
Gendex.
Dexis and Gendex are Danaher. Schick is Sirona. Carestream's independent, as are we.
Okay, let me get that one more time. Danaher owns Dexis and Gendex. Who owns Schick?
Sirona.
Sirona owns Schick. Did they buy that from David Schick?
They did a merger. David was out a long time ago when he got himself into a bunch of trouble back in the late 90s.
Yeah, some stock.
Yeah, there was some SEC
valuation
implications.
And so when that happened, he sold it to Gendex or Sirona. Which
he was kind of out, and then Jeff Sloven came in, and Jeff was actually running Schick, and then they did a merger with Sirona, and then then Sloven was running Sirona for a period of time. Sirona had their own issues a couple years ago, if you remember, and some of the senior management team was moved on.
Three of them resigned in one day.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Danaher owns Dexis and Gendex. Schick sold to Sirona, which then married Dentsply, and then you got Carestream. So those 3 or those 4 brands by 3 companies, would you say that's 80% of the U.S. digital X-ray market?
I think that's I think that's about right.
Okay, yep. So where did you get the cojones to go compete with those boys? I mean, Danaher, that's the biggest 400-pound gorilla in all of dentistry. Probably the next biggest gorilla doesn't even weigh 300 pounds. What gave you the fortitude to go after and compete against Danaher?
Well, a few things. One, if I told you that markets change, you would say, thanks, Rick, for the brilliant insight, and let's end the call. However, as I've pointed out, this particular market is not. Doctors and their teams have been charged with paying for these sensors at that price for a long time, and warranties have to come along with it. And so we know that, the vast majority of the market, 85% has digital X-ray of some shape or form. They paid $20,000 to $30,000 to get it installed. They paid for the warranties for several years that were $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 a year. They didn't need replacements. They didn't get software updates, and they never called support. So they're asking themselves, why am I paying all this money? And then the sensor fails when they've dropped the warranty, and now they realized why they paid the money, because now they're looking at another $8,000 to $10,000 bill. Well, this is prevalent throughout the market, where these practices and this model has gone on for some time. They're frustrated by the price points. They're frustrated by the money they're spending. They're frustrated that they know that that the parts to this sensor are $1,000. They're not 10, and so the markup maybe a little bit exorbitant at this point. So we just decided, because we know how to make sensors and we don't have to ship and out all that work. We do it all in-house in San Jose, California. We knew that we could construct a model that didn't have those layers of cost, right? We're not sold through distribution largely, but we price in parity. We don't have huge operating and overhead expenses. It gives us the ability to keep price down. The idea behind the subscription is that you pay for this product anyway, right? The idea of sensor ownership is an illusion. I get into this discussion often with doctors who want to talk about, is it a lease? I like to buy my cars. And I tell them, I get it. I like to buy my cars too. The difference is when I'm done paying for my car and my extended warranties come to an end, if something fails with the car, I can have someone get it fixed for a relatively inexpensive price. That's not the case with digital X-ray sensors. Once they're dead, they're dead. So across the industry, offices are starting to realize, I'm getting sick and tired of all this money that's going out to digital X-ray sensors. And I'd much prefer a low upfront investment, $139 a month, and I never have to worry about sensors again. It's kind of that return to film, right? I mean, there was a day when you bought film, you didn't know how much you bought, you knew you had to have it. It had a per patient kind of cost. It was a consumable, and you had to have it, so you bought it. Well, we're kind of going back that day. Instead of your CapEx dollars going towards sensors, spend them on a real capital expense item and let us handle your sensors. We plug right into the software you have, every major software. We know offices don't want to change their software. So you literally can just call us up, give us $1,999. We send you the sensor, the key, software key. We log in, we do all the installation. We set up we help calibrate the tube head so you maximize your image quality, plug side by side with the sensors you have. And so we just make this kind of a no-brainer. Why would you spend $10,000 when you could spend $2,000? And if you've got to pay for a warranty anyway, why not just have it on a subscription and not worry about it?
So the subscription is $19.99.
One-time fee.
One-time.
Setup fee. Yep. Comes with everything you need, including installation,
and then how much
calibration.
A month? Then how much a month?
Sign up for a 12-month plan. It's $159 a month. Sign up for a 24-month plan. It's $139 a month. During that term, I get phone support, updates, and sensors replaced if and when they fail, no deductible. There is no warranty because you're on the subscription. At the end of the subscription, you can either send it back and move on. You're not into it for $20,000, so it doesn't feel that painful if something else game-changing presents itself, some brand new technology that's meaningful.
How much is it for 20?
Or you can simply,
how much is it for 24 months?
$139.
Okay, so $130. Okay, continue.
$159 for 1 year, $139 for 2 years. At the end of the term, if you want to send it back and move on, you can. And if you want to stay on the subscription, you simply make a $139 a month automatic credit card payment, and you don't worry about digital X-ray anymore.
So do you automatically ding the credit card? So they give you your credit card, then you automatically.
Correct.
And what is
Correct.
that? What is that subscription model in economics called, where you ding a credit card every month, like Netflix?
Subscription. Yeah, just subscription model. Yep.
And Wall Street is just in love with these models. I mean, they were valuing Netflix the same as Disney just because they had that guaranteed monthly subscription. Now, Amazon does it a yearly. They bill you yearly. Mm-hmm. What made you go monthly, dinging a credit card monthly instead of yearly? What was your thoughts there?
Well, one, it helps with the cost to get the company off the ground, right? Subscription models are valuable when they're flying, but they're expensive when they're starting. You don't get that chunk up front to run the business. And so I think this was a nice blend between a small initial setup fee and a monthly subscription that would be typical to what anybody out there that's still using film. There's absolutely no good reason to do that. They're spending more now monthly in film chemicals and mounts, let alone time and satisfaction of the patient.
And when did you start doing these Jazz imaging subscriptions?
About 2 years. We launched in Chicago midwinter of 1917.
In 1917?
2017, yeah.
And how's it going? How many of you guys got signed up for this?
Yeah, we're well into the 1,000 plus. We're growing at about 40% year on year. The amount of doctors and Facebook traffic and positive commentaries continuing to climb. I'll tell you, it was a little surprising for me, quite frankly, having been in this particular space for quite some time and having, kind of submitted to a traditional model. you start to think that that's the way it works, and you can kind of get stuck in your own way of thinking. Todd had this great idea. I thought it was a great idea. And even when we first started, I continued to think, this is going to be that 1 hour presentation. They're going to need to see it in the office. They're going to want to compare it to the other two companies. And nothing could have been further from the truth. I mean, I think one of the things I learned was that the dental community, by and large, recognizes digital X-rays arrived. This isn't is it here yet? Is it good enough yet? Can I diagnose from it? That there's this idea that they all produce good quality images. And if you were to lay all the sensors side by side, the only two that would look unique would be Dexis and ours because of the single size and the rounded corners and the angled cable. But aside from that, all the others look exactly alike. And I think because of that homogenization of technology, it's become much more of a price consideration. And so for us, making that move to provide an opportunity for doctors and their teams to have some technology that could replace what's dying or add more because they didn't get enough to begin with, they're choking their workflow at this point. I remember you gave us, one of your lectures talked a lot about the importance of expanding chairs for the purpose of opening up space for new patients. Right. I remember you talking about this maybe 20 years ago, right? And you gave the example of the shopping aisle and how, they have all these aisles for a reason. And sometimes they have to grab 5 people and they have to expand because flows ebb, right? And so you want to be in position to handle it. Well, a lot of that doesn't happen in dental practice. And so there's 1 sensor, there's 2 hygienists, there's 3 hygienists, there's 2 sensors, there's 2 doctors. They don't have enough. And so they're waiting, and it's a silly wait. It's $139 a month to take the weight off the table. So for us, we've solved a couple of issues. One, offices are tired of spending that kind of money on sensors. They're largely dropping warranties, unsuspecting of the fact they're going to have to come out $10,000 more dollars. I mean, we'll have Dexis practices call us now saying, should I keep my warranty or should I just wait? And when it dies, I can call you. Your setup fee is the same price as the warranty, let alone buying a sensor. So that we've solved that kind of problem, and that is who we get in mass at this point. Additionally, practices are starting to realize they're maybe choking some of the workflow, and they don't need to do that, right? If I've got 45 minutes to knock down hygiene appointment, and I've got to wait 5 to 10 minutes to get the sensor, I'm bitching at the end of the day because I can't get done in time, and Rick's trying to get the full mount done and Jenny's hogging the sensor and it's making me look bad. And so easy elimination to add just a little more technology to make that workflow a little bit smoother.
And I just want to be clear. I don't do any commercials on my podcast. They're all free. Okay. My guests are free, all that kind of stuff. So the reason I had you come on is because, my God, if you do a search for Jazz Imaging on Dental Town, you guys have taken over the digital X-rays, and I'm sitting there thinking, I know that dude. So, that's why I called you.
Well, that great work's our marketing, our social media marketing guy, Aaron DeCourt, and he's done a fantastic job of. We think your community is a great fit for who we are, right? We're disruptors. We're not interested in maintaining status quo. We believe we've solved a problem that makes life a lot easier, at least as it relates to digital X-ray, right? We've got a very simple single size solution. We know it's better than 2 sizes if it can be avoided. We plug right into the software you have, and we make the decision, the economic decision very easy. And so as a result of that, we're really shaking up this digital X-ray universe, and your crowd is, they're kind of wired like that. I mean, look at you. I mean, you're a nut. And so, they love that, right? So we like it. We like thinking differently and outside the box, and let's solve real issues. And we think we've done that. We think we're freeing up cash that doctors can invest it in other things, better for their business and better for their patients.
Well, the greatest sewing machine in the world, most people would say, is what?
Singer.
And Singer wasn't the best sewing machine at all. He was just the first one to change the business model. Everyone else wanted $50 for their sewing machine, and he saw the Irish diaspora, and all the jobs were in textiles, and they could make $3 a week if they owned the $50 sewing machine, but they couldn't get a job. They didn't have one. So they were the first ones to start handing out a sewing machine for $1 a week financing, and they bankrupted the rest. Same thing. Everybody always talks about Henry Ford. They don't understand why Henry Ford, why they shut down that plant. And it was because GM started GMAC financing, and Henry Ford, you need to give them all $689, and GMAC financing said, no, let's finance that. And so you have changed the business model. But I want to get more technical for a minute. When you talk about these 4 major players, Dexis, Gendex, they don't actually make the sensor. Like Jazz Imaging, you don't have $1 billion factory that's making the sensors.
Not all of it, right? There are pieces that are sourced. That's right.
And that's right. Are all of you buying the same pieces from the same source?
No. There's Schick has their own, Danaher has their own. They share with Gendex, right? They leverage that relationship. Carestream has their own. We have our own. There's not a ton of people that are making the parts, right? So there is some. There are other companies that make and then private label through many of the other smaller, kind of players like Soda Imaging, or you've got. I'm blanking on. There's just a few of those smaller players that there is a company that makes for them. But we're one of the few that actually makes parts, acquires parts, and does all assembly in-house.
And you do all that in Reno or San Jose?
In San Jose, California. Yeah,
and
San Jose.
Is being in high-tech San Jose part of the magic formula, or could you have done this in
So Fairchild Imaging was our partner at Dexis for a long time. Fairchild, goes back to making cameras for the U.S. Air Force in 1915. They designed and developed CMOS and CCD chips in the 50s. Their chips are in Deep Space Impact and Hubble Telescope. They were a defense contractor for Lockheed Martin, and this was a division that made these sensors. And this team that's now our team was that team at Fairchild. And then when it sold, many of them were off doing different things. That was 2000. So I left Danaher in 2010. Fairchild sold the business in 2012. Patents began to expire on the Dexis sensor in 2014. Todd, who was the project manager, who we worked together because we were kind of the commercial business. At Dexis, we didn't make anything. They were fully assembled by Fairchild. That's not the case now with Jazz. We do the assembly. And so the idea they're all in San Jose. There was an opportunity around a great idea. And that's, and that's kind of the birth child of Jazz, kind of where we are.
And what was that idea? Was it mostly a financing deal instead of price or subscription?
It was.
Was that the lion's share of the innovation?
It was. The big idea was about how to shake up the space with a low barrier to enter to a high quality product. Everybody wants 3 things, right? You learn this in the science of selling. Everybody wants the highest quality product. They want the best customer care, and they want the very lowest price. And those things don't come around very often. They're very tough to find, right? You kind of choose. At Dexis, we had the best quality product and the best customer care for many years, but it was the highest price. And so I think what we feel like we've accomplished, it's a really big deal, is the ability to provide a high quality product that plugs right into the software you have, doesn't require you to eliminate your other sensors. You can just add ours into what you're already using, into the software you have, and do it at a price that, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get out there. The fundamental difference is this. If you're a doctor that wants to buy sensors and you don't want to pay for the warranty and you want to play that game, then we're not for you. If you're a doctor that pays for warranties or struggles with the idea of paying for warranties, would prefer not to pay for warranties and spend $10,000 up front, we're perfect for you, right? So instead of the 10, it's 2. And instead of the $1,500 warranty or $2,000 warranty every year, it's $139 a month. And everything else is the same game. So why wouldn't you do it?
You talked about your revenue model being different, a subscription instead of buying up front.
Correct.
Did you also disintermediate the middleman? I mean, do they get these through their Paterson, Shine, Benko, Burkhart reps, or only direct?
We have a handful of distribution partners that we work with, and we also work direct. We don't work through any of the big box dealers. And so, Benko, many of the NDC groups, we've maintained price parity. So we provide a discount to the distributor. It's not your traditional heavy discount, but it's enough to make it worth it to them. And it's enough that we can keep the price the same so the customer doesn't experience any disconnect between whether they call us directly or they work through one of our distribution partners.
So who are your distribution partners?
So today it's Benko, as I said, some of the NDC groups. I don't know if you know them, Midway, IQ,
NDC?
Nash. NDC is kind of the mothership. It's kind of an organization of dealers, smaller dealers.
What's their website? National Distribution Channel? Is that it?
I don't know. I don't go to their website. If you search NDC, I'm sure you'll find,
And they're a trade for dental distributors.
It's kind of an organization that provides some leverage by, creating an umbrella, if you will, of organization and leadership that kind of helps the smaller dealers work in more coordination, get a little more leverage with manufacturers, defend themselves maybe a little bit more against the large dealers that have a little more power in pushing manufacturers to eliminate dealers so that they don't have the same levels of competition. And
so Benko is your big one. And then
that's right.
In NDC,
the collection inside that is Midway Dental, Nashville Dental, IQ Dental, Reliable Dental, a bunch of these kind of smaller distribution partners that understood what we're doing and decided they wanted in on the action.
So is Darby one of those?
Yes. So Darby is our biggest call center partner. And actually, it's going very well. They've been responsive. And I feel like the Darby relationship that we have is a great fit because, as you know, they're a call team too, right? This idea of eliminating those layers of cost and adding more value back to the customer, we kind of have a similar approach.
Well, it's the only secret to lower prices is lower cost. I mean, if American Airlines just said, we're just going to match Southwest Airlines, well, then they're going to be absolutely out of business. And so you have to lower your cost in your business model. And so what would you say were the main things that lowered your cost in your business model?
Well, the obvious are we're a call team, right? So we don't have the same, outside sales representation that has to make a living too. We don't have the in-field service technicians who have to make a living too. So for us, because we can handle everything remotely and electronically, imagine, right? You go to the website to place an order, right? You respond to an ad. One of our inside team members gives you a call. We answer any questions you have. You place your order on the website or through your distribution partner. We ship you everything you need. We log in. We do all the work with you for you. It's $139 a month. And you don't have to worry about that anymore. If by chance something happens to the sensor, and we all know sensors fail, it's a phone call, it's a remote in, it's a quick diagnosis, and it's a sensor sent out to replace it if it's dead. You drop yours in the box, and everybody's happy. And so there's no need for all that resource out in the field.
So, what do you think of these business models? I mean, my sister, my oldest sister, lived in Lake Elmo forever, and every time I went up there, I would stop by and see Pete Fruschetta, Paterson. Now I don't even know what Paterson's unique selling proposition is. I mean, the world is changing so fast. And then whenever you go to these conventions, everybody's worried about Amazon, and then here's you trying to sell direct through a call center. So let me just back up. That was a lot at once. What do you think of distributors now? And do you think Amazon who has been at the Greater New York meeting every year for 3 years in a row, and they look like Men in Black. It's like two guys in suits with an Amazon deal,
yes,
and no one will go touch them.
Yeah.
They're just all, everybody's like, oh my God, is that Darth Vader? So Amazon, what is that going to be a major player?
Well, I would offer that I don't know that Amazon. So I think about distribution in two categories primarily. One is the consumable stuff, right? The goop and the cotton balls, and you know what you want, and you're just looking to buy it at a lower price. I think that Amazon could certainly and may certainly play a significant role in that. And it's clear that they've got the big distributors, a little uneasy. I'm not sure it's happened as quickly as everybody had thought it might. And that may be just a matter of Amazon learning the space. But I think that the consumable thing makes sense, right? If I can eliminate layers of cost, to your point, I can buy that stuff for a lot less. And it's the same stuff, right? It's not any different. Same box of stuff I was getting from those guys, I can get from these guys. I think where it changes a little bit, we actually listed our products on Amazon, the Jazz Club. We get very little traffic. And my belief is it's still a technology. There's still an equipment element to it. There's still questions that you're going to have about how it works and does it integrate and what happens if it doesn't give me what I want and who's going to be there for me. And I think there's more involved in the technology equipment side of the equation. And I question whether Amazon's going to be able to gain any real traction there as long as they try to stay an internet-only kind of non-human interaction model. So if they change that model, which I had been told several years ago, there was intent to add 100 field reps at some point in the future, then I think that changes the equation. But in today's world, I don't think there's a threat to technology or equipment companies based on the lack of human interaction.
So if you were the CEO of Paterson, what would you be trying to do?
Well, I think the challenge that they face, and I know, I've been closer to Shine in my time because of my Dexis days, and I was there when we negotiated that relationship with Shine, and we had a lot of success with that relationship with Shine. I think that this is the interesting thing, right? When you look at the tectonic plates, the shifting that may go on inside this market, you ask yourself the question. You made the comment about value. How does a distributor that doesn't make things add value when they're marking it up 30%, 40%, 25%, whatever the number might be? How do they articulate that value? It's a difficult thing to do. And I think that's been some of the challenges that many of the companies have gone through. I think, one of the things I think Shine's been smart in is they own pieces of lots of companies. Then you've got Danaher, who has now, disconnected themselves from the mothership, right? They're their own company inside dental. So they're no longer tied to the big machine. They're their own thing, giving them a lot more flexibility to make their own decisions.
So to be clear on that, they separated their stock into two stock categories. Correct. And it just
dental is its own business now.
And when did Danaher separate out dental?
That was months, not a year, months ago.
And who's going to be running that unit now?
It's the same gentleman. I can't remember his last name. His first name's Amir. He's running the business now, and he's been at the head there for a few years now. So I think the question, from a strategic perspective is when you're talking about cost and price and you're talking about value, right? How do you articulate that value? And what does that mean to large manufacturers like a Danaher, right? Who has all of Kerr and all of the equipment brands? And do they ask themselves the question, we don't really need a distributor. Why are we using a distributor? It doesn't make any sense. We have 300-400 reps between all of our brands across the country. We've got technicians out there supporting iCats and pans and other things. We've got marketing capabilities and support mechanisms already in place. Why the 20, 30, 40%? And I think Sirona and Schick are probably asking them, and Dentsply, right, all tied together, probably asking themselves the exact same questions. Why? You look at a care
string. The
most
common question on any jazz imaging thread, the first question my homies ask, and I love them, the fact that this is their first question, they want to know if the quality is the same. So that's the overwhelming deal. Am I paying less money because I'm not going to own a Mercedes and now I own a Chevy? So talk about the diagnostic quality of the image.
Yeah, I think the evidence is when we plug it in side by side with the sensor that you have. And so one of the ways that we've helped eliminate this concern, you know as well as I do, if I'm on a trade show floor and I'm looking at X-rays, I'm looking at the best X-rays they've ever taken, right? I'm not looking at the shit, right? Because there's plenty of them. And so you're only getting the best. It's like when a doctor asks me, can I speak to someone who's using it? I say, of course, but you realize I'm only going to send someone that loves me and loves the product and loves the company. So you kind of know what you're going to get before I send you the name, but that's fine. You can talk to them. I think for us, by providing this 14-day, 100% money back performance guarantee, it's given us the ability to lower some of those concerns, right? Just sign up, let us ship you one. We'll plug it in. You see for yourself. Use it for 2 weeks. If it works and you love it, you keep it. And if it doesn't, I give you all your money back and you're out nothing.
For how long?
2 weeks, 14 days. So
you get 2 weeks to decide if this thing image works.
That's exactly right.
And what's your return rate? Are you finding out that that's an issue or not an issue?
It's very low. It's very low. What it's done for us, I think there's a few things that have helped our rapid growth. One is, our engineers are the guys that we're on the team that invented the first digital X-ray, and we've been making sensors ever since, 30 years. So a long history of making sensors for all the brands you know. The second is that this particular product, the Jazz Solo sensor, is really a best in class in terms of its design. We have 10% more active area than the existing Dexis sensor, but the footprint's the same. I can lay my sensor on top of a Kodak size 1, and it's the same size, but I get the image area of their size 2, so I don't need multiple sizes to accomplish the same thing. And then because we've got a price point that's not that scary, and then a 14-day performance guarantee where our team does all the work, right? We ship it to you, we contact you, we do the install, we help calibrate the tube heads. If you've got existing sensors, we make sure there's no disruption in your ability to acquire on that workstation. And then we give you the freedom to play with it yourself for a couple weeks and decide. And as a result of that, it's a little bit of the puppy dog close, right? I get it. Take the puppy home and tell me if you like the puppy. Puppies don't come back very often, but it works and it's right. We give them the flexibility to send it if it's not giving them what they want. And honestly, Howard, I've always had this kind of mentality, whereas if you're not happy as a customer, I'd rather you be happy somewhere else because I don't want you unhappy as a customer.
Right.
I want you to enjoy your experience and interaction with us. Doesn't short money, right? Doesn't serve me at all.
Yeah, it reminds me of something totally separate. When people don't pay their bills, these dentists take them to small claims. So now they live in a town of 5,000 and there's some farmer lady there that he took to small claims. And for the next 50 years, she's going to hate him. Right. What I always did is the week of Christmas holiday, I knew anything over 120, 150, I knew it was dead. So I just erased off the accounts at the end of the year, made a Christmas card and said, hey, we had a great year, but I'm concerned about your year because you haven't paid your bills. So the spirit of Christmas around the corner, I have zeroed out your bill. And all I ask is that in the future, for your continued referrals of friends and loved ones. Oh my God, they come in crying with cakes and cookies.
That's brilliant.
And
it's fantastic.
It's like you weren't going to get any money. So what? You want to make her a mortal mortal enemy. Now I was there when she was down, and she'll never forget it. And
as you well know, it's not just that one mortal enemy, it's all the friends of the mortal enemy, right? And mortal enemies have a tendency to grow armies. So they're not interested in just being them. They're going to tell everybody what an ass you are. So, it feeds on itself. And conversely, so does it when you take good care of others.
And by the way, if you haven't read all the jazz imaging threads on Dental Town, basically it all comes down to these people are all saying, well, why would you buy a sensor for $8,000 and pay $2,000 a year for a warranty? I mean, it just, and everybody's just saying it doesn't make sense. What a lot of people want to say, I went into the second question. So this is how my homie's saying. First was, are we comparing apples to apples? Is the same quality. The second is, what are the most likely ways a sensor can break, and how would you prevent that? What causes most sensors to break?
Well,
and please blame
what causes most sensors to fail, right? So what causes them to fail is the poor handling of team members dropping electronic pieces of equipment on hard surfaces all day long. So they have to take care of it. They have to treat it like it's an electronic piece of equipment. I mean, I'm not talking about, kit and glove, but I am talking about, caring for it. There's a little garage that could hang on the cabinet. So you hang it there. You don't drop it. You don't use high alcohol base to clean it, right? It'll break down the rubbers and the plastic. So you have to make sure you're using, appropriate approved cleaners. And there's plenty of them out there. There's nothing proprietary here. And the third primary is that they don't use the RIN holders. And so they'll get away from RIN holders, and then you'll start having biting on cables and biting on plastic and putting undue pressure in the wrong points. The fourth, and I would liken this to the competition, is the cable position. So if you look at our sensor, it comes out at a 45-degree angle. If you look at all other sensors, they come out at a 90-degree angle. And the challenge with that 90 degrees is that if you need to get the apex of a root of an anterior tooth, and you've got that thing vertical, and that cable's coming straight out the bottom, and now it's getting in the way, making the sensor effectively even longer than it was to begin with. And now the team is trying to bend that thing to get it out of the way. They're creating a lot of torque, and that's where some of the failures happen as well. We don't experience that. Ours comes out at 45 degrees, virtually no torque at all. So we don't have that kind of same limitation. But it's mostly user. You have offices. I mean, I still have some friends that were Dexis customers 15 years ago that have the same sensor. And then I've got, and our guys were the ones that made those sensors. And I've got offices that call us up and say, I'm replacing sensors, they're Dexis customers or whatever. They're replacing sensors every 6 months. But the user issue is a big deal. And, unfortunately, it's hard to manage that because doctors, doing work. He can't be walking around making sure they're handling the technology the right way every day.
We have a new specialty now, and it's the 10th one now. It's dental anesthesiology. The one before that was dental radiology. The radiology people, a lot of them don't like the word X-ray. Are you calling this a dental sensor, a dental radiograph sensor, or do you use the forbidden term X-ray? What's your thought on that word?
I didn't know it was bad, so I've been saying X-ray. Nobody told me, but we call it a sensor. I mean, I've always called it sensors, but we'll call it an X-ray sensor. So I don't know. I didn't get the memo on that. We need to eliminate that word from our vocabulary.
Well, speaking of that, do you have any dental specialists, oral maxillofacial radiologists on your team, or is that really not necessary?
Not a lot of that, because as an intraoral sensor, it's largely a GP kind of application, right? I mean, they're the ones taking full mouth series. They're the ones taking bite wings. And oftentimes the specialists are just using the X-rays that are coming from those practices. So, not a ton of that. It's not, we don't pay a lot of people to talk about us. That's one of the ways we keep our costs down, right? We think we've got a compelling story, and we believe that from a team and from the technology and from the pricing model that it holds up. And in today's world of social media marketing and the ability to leverage vehicles like your own, when you've got, a lot of offices, a lot of doctors that are, they come to this place to find out the true story about what it is they're being told. And so, there's lots of ways for us to do what we're doing today without kind of that old traditional, do you have all the, the big expensive KOLs it's not really our business.
So when you talk about sensors failing, it was improper handling, don't clean with high alcohol, use your ring holders, cable needs to come out at an angle. What percent is the first one? Improper handling, or is that basically, are they getting dropped?
It's so hard. It's so hard to know because it doesn't leave any physical damage, right? You can't see it. You'd have to slam it to put a dent on it. So it's just tough to know.
Yeah.
But you get some of these bizarre stories, right? Like a team member that used a finger cut over the sensor to finger place, and when it was done and they went to cut the finger cut off, they cut the cable at the same time, and oops, forgot it was a cable, or whatever, right? You'll hear some of these strange stories. Very rarely, the vast majority is just kind of normal wear and tear. And from our perspective, because there is that element of unknown, where is it coming from and why, it makes a lot more sense to not have to worry about getting it replaced. And for offices that are dropping warranties because they're sick and tired of the cost and no value coming back, right? Because they spent all the money up front. The idea is, I just gave you $10,000. How much more do I need to give you, right? So we don't do that. You give me $2,000 and you give me the same money as your warranty dollars and don't think about it anymore. And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter now. You just can go focus on other things. You got plenty in a dental office to worry about. You shouldn't be worrying about taking X-rays. As you well know, you got to have them, right? The reason they're important is because if I can't take an X-ray, I can't bill and I can't treat. So I have to have one. So we've just tried to take all this, noise, confusion, price, cost, concern, and eliminate it. We plug right in. We give you 2 weeks to try it. Your dollars are negligible. Focus on other things.
I'm gonna play Trivia Pursuit with you right now. Who was the first American dentist to take an X-ray in the United States?
Oh gosh,
it was Charles Edmund Kells, DDS, who lived 1856 to 1928. He took the first dental X-ray in New Orleans in 1896. And
if you weren't reading, I would have thought, wow, that's quite a memory you've got. But
it's amazing how far these things have come. And then I want to tell you another thing is that, what year did Röntgen invent the radiograph? Let me Google that. What year?
How about 1947? No, 1907. Hang on. 1891.
1895. Very good. But let me point something out, because a lot of times you need the historical perspective to see what's going on. There was no dental insurance till about 1948. It was about 3 years after World War II. And nobody from 1895 to basically 1950 used these in dentistry. It wasn't until dental insurance came out and covered X-rays at 100%, and it was a domino effect from the Pacific, where that started in California, Oregon, and Washington, and just rolled all the way to New Jersey. So if you're talking to anybody with a PhD in economics, they'll always tell you incentives matter and insurance matter. And when there's not an insurance code, it has had a profound impact on how dentistry or medicine has been treated. So don't ever forget that lesson. So basically, this is very, very disruptive. Do you feel like it's real disruptive? I mean,
oh yeah, our tagline when it first came out was the dental disruptors. So you'll still see that on the website. Our objective was to disrupt a space that had gotten stale. And we believed that wasn't adding the value back to the customers, and we had an opportunity to do that. And so, that's what I love about this country, right? We have an opportunity to get an idea and to go execute that idea. And those who execute the best, they win. And so I find that we're in a really unique position in that we've got a team of experts that knows how to make it. We've got a commercial team that understands how to interact with customers in a considerate and respectful way, giving them an opportunity, like I say, to see for themselves if it's going to give them what they want. And then the ongoing support and service that I just think has eliminated this. I'm tired of having this conversation about digital X-ray sensors.
I don't want to switch gears and totally change everything around on you, but I do, because if one of my homies says, I want to know more about Rick Henriksen, and they Google your name, they're also going to find you with Guru Dental. So your name comes up with Guru Dental a lot. So what is Guru Dental?
Guru Dental is a teaching tool. It's designed to provide kind of a custom and yet standard work approach to visually teaching patients, involving them in the learning process and driving conclusion to decisions on the care that they need. So, that you learn a lot more when you see things than when you hear things. Most dental practices don't do a very good job of teaching patients. We know that the link between the mouth and the body is real. We know that bacteria pumping through, bleeding gums and into the heart is a bad idea. And so we just don't think a lot of Americans or patients around the world understand the importance of good oral health. My experience has been, doctors and dentistry are caught between a little bit of two worlds. Some of it's insurance reimbursed, as you suggest, and those things get high acceptance rates because if it hurts or someone's paying for it, at least that's how it feels, I'm happy to have that work done. But the second you're asking me to reach into my pocket, now I'm making a discretionary spending decision and I have a finite amount of resources. And so if I've got ideas on how I want to spend my money and you've just presented $1,000 non-reimbursed procedure that may be in my best interest, but I don't really understand it, it's probably worth it to you to make sure I do. And so what Guru does is it provides 3D animated video. It allows us to pull in patient-specific information. We've got intellectual property protection on stopping the video and drawing on it. You can record the dialogue. And then when it's over, I can add care credit, financial options. All the things you and I discussed, I can email it. We stream it through the cloud server. I can email it to your home. These decisions are being made at home, not in the chair, right? If I have to reach into my pocket for $1,000, I'm going to ask my wife. I'm not saying yes here. And so I have to now understand what you told me, which I didn't. I have to go home and tell my wife because I remembered it, which I didn't. And now I have to try to convince her we shouldn't be doing that thing. We should be doing this thing. And that becomes difficult to do. And so Guru is about raising the level of understanding through visual teaching, involved learning. We reinforce it at home where you can sit and watch the exact presentation you got chairside, right, in its entirety, your voice, Dr. Farran, the videos that you chose to use, the presentations are all pre-built. So all I have to do is pick the X-ray and choose the presentation, and I start teaching. I can stream at home. If you watch it, the office gets an email that says, hey, Howard watched the presentation. Now would be a great time to follow up. Now, rather than calling up and talk to front desk people and ask them what they hate the most. It's picking all the people that never chose the care and having to make phone calls all day trying to get them to come in, right? They didn't get it the first time. They're not going to get it now. And so this then we also have a reminder system that's focused on not appointments, but treatment. So if you happen to come in and if we took you through that process and if you slipped through the cracks 30 days after you didn't schedule, our tool sweeps the scheduler and sees that you didn't schedule. And then it grabs the treatment codes of the presented care, the treatment plan, and then it packages it up into an automated reminder. It's a video reminder of why the care is important to them and to the doctor. So what we're trying to do is raise the level of importance of oral health. We don't think it rises to a high enough level of importance in the mind of patients. We know that because 80% of Americans have gum disease. Right? If I asked you, do you know you're supposed to brush and floss? How many people would say yes? And yet all these people come in with all these problems. They don't understand it. And that's really what we're about, helping them understand why they should be choosing better care.
I know you don't want to play favorites, and it's called channel conflict, but if we just had 6,000 kids graduate from dental kindergarten school last week. If they're going out to set up their own practice, do you have any practice management software recommendations? Does digital radiography, storing the images, billing insurance with the images, are any of them easier, faster, cheaper than the others?
We happen to partner with Apteryx. It's an imaging software. So they're a third party that makes softwares. Now they've started to brand their own. For me, the reason I like them as a partner is the architecture is wide open. It makes it possible for you to plug in what you want. I've heard similar stories about Open Dental. One of the reasons that it's growing is because they don't tell you what you can and can't use in the softwares. I think it's one of the frustrations that many of the CareStream customers we have that come to us, we've been able to figure out how to shoot the sensor directly in their software. But we're the only, to my knowledge, we're the only non-CareStream sensor that can shoot in that software. A lot of those offices, they don't like the fact that they're told what they can and can't use. I think that others are trying to open that architecture up more. And I think a lot of the cloud products are improving rapidly. And so, for me, I'd probably look at some of the cloud products that you could, they're easy to update, right? Easy to swap, easy to change. You start to get into these products that you still need, CDs to download and upgrade. And, it's a little bit archaic. So I'm not super connected to the practice management side, but from an imaging perspective, I think Apteryx opens, is more open than others, and as a result, the easiest to work with.
Which one was easiest?
Apteryx as an imaging software.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Apteryx, so talk more about. They're in Akron, Ohio. It's basically a custom software development company in downtown Akron, specializing in the development of custom applications. So what do they do with dental imaging?
Well, they make an imaging software that allows for the connection to a practice management software, right, with a clean link so that all the information's pulled in and connected. And then they also make it possible for you to choose the hardware that you're interested in. Is it cone beam? Is it pan? Is it sensors? Is it cameras? Whatever you want to use, they make it possible to use it, unlike some that will implement some crippleware where they'll make it, possible, but not as advantageous as if you use their own stuff. But you don't like their own stuff as much. If you remember earlier, I was talking about the CareStream sensors are, they're big and not particularly comfortable. They've got the 90-degree cable, so it's hard to place. But a lot of the offices love some of the other products, right? They love, their digital pants. They love their cone beam machine, whatever it might be. But they don't want to be told they have to use this if they're going to use that. And so they'd like to be able to choose a little bit more. And I think that this opening up of the architecture is a trend that's been taking place now for several years, because I think offices just got tired of this proprietary kind of game playing with their software and their hardware when there's hardware they might prefer to use.
So I switched to I was on SoftDent for 30 years, which is owned by CareStream. I switched to Open Dental. I can take the image and put it directly into Open Dental, but then I would lose a lot of the features of that Apteryx deal. So do you recommend just taking the Xray and putting it straight in Open Dental, or would you recommend go through Apteryx?
I leave it in Apteryx. So you've got all the features and the functionality, right? Anything that you might want to do, measuring, maybe adding filters for some, clarity that might give you a little better view. You've got brightness and contrast that you can play with, the shades of gray. Those features are always going to be inside the imaging software. So because there's no issue with I would kind of refer to the front office, right? Practice management and the back office image management. All of my imaging is in the back end, and all my patient stuff is in the front end, and they connect, and that's all that I really need them to do. As long as I can easily bill, attach images, bill, do all that stuff, then it doesn't matter if it's in Open Dental or if it's in my imaging software.
Let's go to the cloud. I noticed when people started using VoIP for the phone server, it's voice over internet protocol. You ask them before that, well, how's your internet connection? They're like, dude, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, the city's 1 million, the metro is 4 million, internet's cool out here. And then they switched to VoIP. And when it started affecting their phone, they realized, damn, my internet is not as good as it is. Where is the internet at 2019? It's June 10, 2019. Is cloud for the biggest files are radiographs. It's the biggest file isn't what grandma's name is. It's your damn radiograph. Where are we at in cloud storage of digital X-rays in 2019? Yeah,
it's still a little slower, than if you've got something hosted locally. The recall, is more seconds. Some do it better than others. And so what I would just encourage is if you're looking for cloud software, then you take a look at a few. And the nice thing about cloud software is that the hardware becomes less of a barrier, right? I don't have the same conflicts that I have if I'm working in a local environment with the software that might conflict. The drivers might conflict with something else that's there. So the cloud, software kind of eliminates all that stuff. I mean, we even have offices, we do not shoot directly into Mac environments, but we do have offices that will have a Mac cloud practice management solution that is connected to imaging solution that's maybe Windows driven, and I can now capture, because I'm not using the PC to do it. I'm using the cloud application to do it. So it's better for sure. It's not quite as quick. And it's probably worthy of just kind of doing a little bit of research for yourself, but it's the right question. That if one of your doctors is listening and interested in cloud solutions, they're going to want to test them, put them in the office, take some X-rays,
give them the short list. I mean, there's so many. There's Tab 32, iDentalSoft, DentaMax, Dentacon,
iDentalSoft, Evidentiae.
Which ones do you like?
The guys that I've been closest to that have kind of reached out to us have been iDentalSoft. They're a Bay Area business. Evidentiae, I know that they're working on adding some applications. Cloud. Dentrix Ascend, right, is now made their move. I think one of the issues is you've got to make sure that hardwares can get shot into that cloud product, and I think that was part of the gap. Is that we launched this cloud product, but we don't have hardwares that can work in it yet. And so how does that work? Is it a little bit of a chicken and an egg discussion? I haven't been close to how that list has expanded of the ability to shoot particular hardwares into those cloud served products. But, those are kind of the 3 or 4 that I hear about.
The private practice guys, they're obsessed with doing the dentistry. The DSOs, they master the business of dentistry.
Yes,
so are you focusing on DSOs because it's always easier to, if something makes business sense, it's a lot easier to get Rick Workman to agree at Heartland than it is to get one of my drinking buddies. Are you having much success with DSOs?
Well, I would say I might challenge that in that it might be, it'd be easier for me to get your drinking buddy to say yes than Rick Workman at Heartland, but it would be hard for me to get 300 of your drinking buddies to say yes at the same time. So right, it's a scale, it's a leverage game. I do think we're well positioned for that space. We are beginning to work with a couple of groups. One happens to be Lone Peak Dental. We've got a couple others I'll hold off on because we're not there yet. But we do think there's an opportunity there. We do think they understand Obviously the business side of the equation much better. They're not particularly keen on the subscription model. And for that reason, and for others, few of our offices, they want to buy it. So you do have the option to purchase the sensor. They like to capitalize. So from an economics perspective, they want the CapEx benefit that year versus the subscription dollars and an operating expense. So a little bit different. And even as of this most recent ADSO, where we spent a bunch of time starting to work our way into this world, asking lots of questions, there are those practices that come in the 20, 30, 40, 50 kind of group that are still thinking about controlling cash and creating value for the purpose of selling that business to one of the big dogs. So, there was a little bit of a mixed bag. If you're a certain size, the subscription seems to make a lot more sense. They really were drawn to it. If you're big, cash isn't the problem. If private equity dollars are sitting in the bank, they want to get the benefit of that this year. So we will, we're not, we're agnostic, buddy. If you want to be a customer, we want to find a way to make it happen.
And you've seen a lot of changes. We both have in 30 years. Where do you see the DSO market going?
Well, some of the data that I've seen over the past years showed that by 2021, it would be about a quarter, 25% of the market would be owned by DSOs. I've seen some things more recently that suggest it's even faster than that. I do think that, cannibalization's taking place, and you've got those private practitioners who are focused on wanting to run an effective small business. And I think that there's lots of resources out there, whether it be, some consulting work, whether it be, in my belief, companies like ourselves who are looking to take off some of the burden, some of the cost burden. There's lots of ways to do it, but I do think those that don't run the business particularly well are probably better off selling their business sooner than later, because every day that large groups continue to grow and cannibalize inefficient, poor run small practices, the less value they have. So, they're probably worth the most right now. So I think, you'll see a continued consolidation around groups. I certainly don't think that's going to change. I think it's going to continue to increase. The question around managed care, how much of that is going to start to eat into this space? What's going to happen with, the regulatory environment as it relates to dentistry? Will that put such erroneous burden on the small guy that he can't compete with the big guy, right? Those things happen to small manufacturers in competition with large manufacturers today. So there's a lot happening, but I don't think it's for those that love the small business, which I do, I don't think it's a lost cause, right? I'd much prefer to go to a private practice where a doctor has a high value for continuing to advance his skills, for making sure that his team, is a warm, friendly, knowledgeable, competent environment, that he invests in his business. You understand, and I would say this one thing, and I found this over the years. I think that those dental offices that don't understand the importance of a high quality office manager are missing it badly. You can't run the business from the chair. And so if you're going to make an investment, make it there. Find a competent office manager who knows how to grow your company.
So I just want to do a shout out. I mean, when I think of you, I think of Kim Cooch, love that dentist in Oregon, Stuart Rosenberg, Stewie, Bill Brown, love you guys. So many memories stored on this conversation, but seriously, Rick, thank you so much for coming on my show today and talking about all things jazz, imaging, Xray sensors. I found it truly fun and very informative. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for the time. It's great to connect. We haven't had a chance to speak in some time. I also very much appreciate your listening audience. If there's any way we can be of service, jazzimaging.com, and just let us know. Fill out a little card, and one of our courteous phone guys will give you a shout and see if there's a way we can help.
I can't believe you didn't say your phone number. It ends in jazz.
It's 567-234-JAZZ 5299.
Is that because you're from
567-234? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Is that because you're a big fan of the Utah Jazz? Is that where they came from, the NBA?
It's because we're from the Bay Area. We love jazz music, and we got the band back together. So we wanted to, a little bit of a double entendre, a little play on words. And so, our software is called Harmony and Fusion, and the sensor's called Solo, and Jazz is the company. And I think, we're having a great time. We're kind of at that place in our life, I think you and me both, right? Where we want to enjoy the work. We want to enjoy the people we work with. And so, we really feel like we're solving something. There's a space out there that's penetrated. There's a lot of cost involved. There's a lot of offices that have dropped warranty, and we get a lot of calls where offices are thanking us for what we're doing. We'll even have offices that aren't ready for one, and they'll just want to understand it and say, thanks for shaking stuff up. We've been tired of this, for too long. And so we're having a lot of fun. We're growing. We're having fun. We're taking great care of our customers, and we'll add more stuff. We're already working on some other things, so there'll be more to come here in the next 12 months.
Well, keep us posted on Dentaltown. I appreciate you posting on Dentaltown. I really love it when you guys go in there and do that. So tell them.
Love to do. Yep.
All right. Well, I hope you have a rockin' hot day.
And to you, buddy. Thanks very much.